everybody. We have a guest today on Brain Fresh, Dr. Sparham. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for spending your time. I know you're a busy woman. So, okay, tell us about how many degrees, how many certifications do you have, or board certifications do you have now?
Okay, so yeah, it is kind of the joke of my family. I'm triple board certified. So I have been board certified in pediatrics, integrative medicine, and medical acupuncture. And then as we were just talking about, I'm going back to residency after I've done all that. I've been in practice for 10 or 12 years now, 10 to 12 years. And I'm going to go back to residency in osteopathic neuromusculoskeletal medicine because it's just I do a lot with chronic pain, headaches, and it's just one of those adjuncts that is just so amazing for chronic pain. And I'm super excited, and I got accepted as I'll be their first MD.
Woo-hoo-hoo. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Amazing.
We'll see. I'm way behind. I'm way behind everyone else. Everyone else has been to DO schools. I've been to an MD school. Everyone else has done a DO residency and osteopathic. So they've got like years and years and hundreds of hours way ahead of me. And I'm like studying and trying to practice on my husband.
Right? Nice. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, all that manipulation. That's great. Yeah. Congratulations. That's amazing. So oh my gosh, quadruple board certified someday.
Yeah.
How long does this take? This training?
1 year. So yeah, there's a fellowship experience for those who've already completed a residency, and then you can sit for boards. It is an ACGME accredited residency program, and so just one of those another exam, another CME credit, another 25 credits to attain every single year. So we'll see how I can even manage that.
I don't even know. I God bless you. God bless you. Yeah, that's amazing.
Lifelong learning.
Yes, I know you are the optimal, like OG, the lifelong learner. Oh my gosh! Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
Well, you know me, I love to talk about brains and all things brains. With you, you're especially as lifelong learners. You've been in a lot of positions professionally. Let's talk a little bit about team leading. It's a tough time, challenging time right now in healthcare, and a lot of team leads are looking for new resources or ideas. How do they support their people? Because their people are tired, and they're a lot of the teams are smaller. Is there any stories you want to share of what it was like when you were leading teams, or something you thought that went really well that you'd like to share with the Brain Fresh audience?
Yeah, one big experience I had was building the first headache treatment center. So it's an acute treatment center where we take care of active headaches that otherwise they would have to go to the emergency room. And so we built its own treatment center, and it was not heard of. We didn't really know what we were doing. There was no processes. There was nothing to follow. We were the first of its kind in the country. And so there were several. Gosh. Yeah, it was a tough thing. And being in someone else's space, we had to take over, an inpatient part of the hospital because it was a hybrid type clinic. And so we had 2 nurses, we had me, and then we had a nurse manager and our section chief, which was our headache section chief. And what was interesting was that the team, even though we met a lot of difficult challenges, not only just processes and systems wise that we had to overcome, but we also met a lot of challenges like with other people, like other teams that didn't like us being in their space. And so because we were like the newbies, and so what was interesting was like how to bring more joy and happiness and inspiration and fun into building this new treatment center was that we just did it together. And it wasn't just me leading the team, even though I was the director of the headache treatment center. I was involving everyone in the process and what they wanted the headache treatment center to look like so they could really take a piece of it and own it. And I think that really inspired them to do more and to be more involved. And that actually led them to request to be at the headache treatment center more, because the nurses would float elsewhere.
Oh, right.
And so they actually started creating all the processes and created it from scratch and what made sense. And we would like play ideas off of each other, see if it would make sense, and talk to, our section chief leadership, see if we could do it. And so it was just a real different approach versus me or, our section chief saying, okay, you've got to do this and this and this process and implement it this way. We were creating it from scratch ourselves. And I think that made us own it. And because of that, we also, if something was going wrong or it wasn't making sense, something that we implemented, we could then go back and do a little abnormality tracker and figure out, okay, what's the challenge? What's the block? What's the obstacle? And then we would have like a little round table together and discuss what different strategies we could come up with to overcome that.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Fun. So that sounds awesome. I mean, it's like if you get a list of like what you're supposed to do growing a team, like you hit so many boxes. Especially I love reading the literature about like neuroscience of teams and what makes a team, united and engaged and, share their creative ideas. Well, it seems like first thing they have to feel like they belong, like that they are a part of the team, valued part of the team. They have to know why they're there. So sometimes, in healthcare and other industries, you're just on a team, like you have to go to a committee meeting at whatever time. And you're on that committee, like, well, what am I doing? And like, what is the point? Who's running it? What's the point? And what are we trying to achieve? So it's really interesting because that kind of throws us off if we don't know like what we're trying to achieve or when things are due and what our role is. But it sounds like you nailed it. Like you just hit all those things that the brain needs to be able to like settle down, know why it's there so it can focus and be creative to problem solve. And the other thing we read a lot is like, if people can be vulnerable, like you said, you brought forward things that weren't working well and said like, hey, this is not going well, guys. What can we do? What other ideas do you have? Or, interacting with those other teams. So awesome work. Yeah. So, and are you still on that team or is that an older team that is?
Nope. I just resigned from that position.
Okay.
And we actually created a whole bunch of new models together as COVID hit. And so we had to re-strategize. And so we did, a lot of similar things, but I had resigned because I am going back to residency. So yes, they're on their own.
For a little bit at least while you're learning. Right. Again. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Yeah. And can you share an example, not details, but when things didn't go well in the team and you thought like, ooh, we need to do more of this or less of this or something that you learned from, you don't have to give any personal details, of course. But.
Yeah. So there were times when we really struggled with it just being completely chaotic throughout the day. The nurses especially were, working so incredibly hard. Everyone felt super exhausted at the end of the day, in pain, in chronic pain and headaches for pediatric patients, especially when they're in like an active, exacerbation, they're in pretty severe emotional distress. And so they tend to also like emotionally bring that into the clinic visit. And so then I think also the nurses can feel that as well. And it does kind of bog them down a little bit. And so sometimes it is tough for them to say, gosh, I don't want to come back here the rest of the week after that experience with that parent after an exhausting, physically exhausting and mentally and emotionally exhausting day. And so that's when we really had to, it was hard at the time, but it really was good in a way because my team could really feel comfortable talking to me with some of these problems. Like once it reached that point where, you know what, Anna, we just can't do this anymore. And it's just that ability to communicate freely and openly without fear of reprimand or retribution or anything like that. And they'll know that if it is a big problem, enough of a big problem, that we all will work together to change that. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces of being a leader, is really listening and understanding what the problem is for the team, and then trying to figure out a solution as next steps and acting on it instead of putting it on the back burner, which I have seen a lot in my own leadership team. When I've gone to my leadership team before and needed help with a problem at this treatment center, and that was put on the back burner for 2 years. And so I never wanted to do that to my team. And so I always took whatever issues were very serious to, the next level and say, okay, we need to change this. We need to set some boundaries on what types of families can present to the Headache Treatment Center. We need to present some communication, wording for parents and families to understand that we have to work as a team. And so yeah, I think that really helped quite a bit moving forward.
That's amazing. So that is so true. Like, if people have a safe place where they can share emotions, I mean, there's going to be emotions in the workday, right? And just being able to say, like, this was an exhausting day, then it must have been a safe place that they could say that. Emotional distress, like the literature shows right now in healthcare, is super high, like scarily high. Because there's so many challenges, and just knowing what to do with emotions. Is there, working in pain, I would think that comes up commonly, that there's, some emotional reaction to either patients, or just like, how do you personally deal with, like, one of those days with a lot of negative emotions? Our days tend to kind of come and go up and down, but, chronic pain is sometimes it's more of the challenging or extreme emotions. How do you support yourself to work in those environments?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's very similar for me. Like, if I have a disruptive event, say with a family who's very upset and, doesn't accept, the management plan, and say maybe wants an opioid, and the opioid is, we can't recommend the opioid for this particular condition. It's just not recommended for headaches, for example. And so then, there could be some inappropriate verbal communication. And so I usually would go to the leadership as next step and just say, hey, this is what happened. I'm putting in a disruptive report. But unfortunately, what happens, especially at 2 of the academic medical centers I've worked at, there's actually is no process for protecting physicians or staff, faculty or staff at the academic medical center. You can put in a disruptive report, but there is no action after that.
Yeah, that's concerning. Yeah. And you personally, like, how do you, are there some things that you do on, regularly so that you can,
yes,
maintain your busy learning life? Yeah.
Yes, I do. So I actually have to meditate most days. And so usually in the morning, I have to set the intention for the day. If there is going to be something that's chaotic or something difficult to deal with, please just give me the ability to problem solve and overcome that challenge. And then, so I have to really set that intention before the day starts. And then afterward, I do have to do some emotional release, because there is a lot of emotions that you build up over the day. There's a lot of stress that you build up over the day. And sometimes you can internalize that into physical symptoms. And actually, that's often what causes chronic pain, is the emotional pathways and the pain pathways are unfortunately very connected, as you know, in neuroscience. And a big way to release that is visualizing. I use a little self-hypnosis technique, and I visualize all those gunky emotions or emotions that no longer serve me. Yes.
Fly, right?
Yes. Yeah, you can do so much with them. Just release it from your body, whether you put it into a container or chuck it across the universe. You can ground it down into the center of the earth. You can just make it come out of your body and dissipate, into 1,000 pieces. There's so many different ways you can visualize it. And by doing that, it actually does physiologically change your ability to perceive that stress. So it's interesting. So I have to do that every night. If I miss it, I don't get good sleep.
Oh, very interesting. See, yeah, our brain is powerful. Yeah. It's only running the whole bod, right? So yeah, it's like sleep is an active process. So the brain needs to be in a good place to get a good night's sleep. Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And did you say you do acupuncture as well?
Yep. Yes.
So what made you want to learn that for your
Well,
patients?
after pediatrics residency, I built a pediatric integrative medicine clinic, and I also was doing adult integrative medicine. And I was seeing a lot of patients with pain, and I didn't know. I mean, we didn't have that many lectures in pain or how to manage pain. And so I went and learned as I was studying for my boards how acupuncture was beneficial for musculoskeletal pain, for headaches, for migraines, low back pain. So I went and I got certified because I was trying to help my patients. And then I got chronic pain. And so it was beneficial for me too.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well,
and yeah, it's been very beneficial. In fact, because I'm a pediatrician, I didn't know that the kids would love it. And it is in high demand. The kids absolutely love
Come on, they do?
Oh,
wow.
It's insane.
All ages? All ages?
All ages. Usually the older kids, probably 12 and above. It's very, very popular. The younger kids, you have to do the smaller, like the almost invisible needles. And you never say needles to the kids.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, it has to be invisible.
Very interesting. I love that. Yeah. Again, I mean, there's so many tools out there, and it's nice to try to learn about them. And I didn't know too much about that either. But then I heard about it through our Wellness Institute, and that there's a lot of practitioners, using, acupuncture. And a lot of my patients had said that they have tried it and really enjoyed it, and it worked, and it really helps them for a variety of reasons. So yeah, I mean, it's been news, kind of news to me too. I was like, wow, that's neat. It just wasn't something I ever learned about in med school or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's real neuroscience to it. And it's interesting because it also helps with relaxation and it helps with stress because it's also producing more of those neurotransmitters in the spinal cord that are the kind of the rest and the relaxed neurotransmitters like serotonin, for example. So yeah, it's kind of used both kids with high stress, adults with high stress, and a lot of pain. Yeah, very beneficial.
So interesting. Well, let's pivot a little bit. So you're going to start something new in your life and be a resident again. And so how are you prepping for that? How are you going to get ready for that lifestyle again?
I am nervous, very nervous. I actually, because I am way more behind than my other colleagues because they're DOs and they've had hundreds of hours way ahead of me. I am starting to study, and I'm actually shadowing a couple DO physicians who just do osteopathic manipulative medicine. And I'm trying to practice on my husband after I read my textbooks. And so poor husband.
Watch YouTube. Are you watching YouTube?
I'm watching YouTube. I just don't want to go in there and just be like, total.
Right. That's so interesting. So you've done a few residencies. So, what have you learned over your residence or your training programs over the years that has helped you, kind of deal with that level of activity and learning? And I don't know if you'll be on call and things, but you will. Oh, you still will. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So what have you learned over your few programs that you've done? So that, is there anything you'll take from the other ones that you thought, wow, that really helped you live that lifestyle, that busy lifestyle?
It was networking, actually. That was the biggest thing for me, is to have that support, because I really have to feel comfortable when I ask questions, because there's going to be a lot of questions, especially just starting out and, learning a whole new modality. I am not going to know a lot of things. And so I really just try and get that support network of people who know what they're doing already and build those relationships so I can reach out to them in times of need.
Nice. And you already said that in your meditation, are you going to try to keep all of those things up? Are those kind of foundational for you?
Yes, those
Yeah.
are very foundational. I have found that if I don't do those emotional releases, if I don't do meditation, if I don't set the intention for the day, I get pretty tired. The fatigue kind of hits in because it is you're working quite a bit of hours. I mean, I'll be on call the third week of the month for a whole week, and so
Okay.
I have to maintain my health, and that is going to be the most important thing for me during residency, because without it, I won't be able to learn
Right.
as well.
Oh, 100%. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. So I know ACGME has now a new push for that residents in the curriculum have to develop some kind of professional well-being plan, which is so great, that is, I think, in every discipline. And it's a must now, because there's been so many urgencies. The healthcare workers are, pushing themselves and not given the time or maybe the instruction. I don't know why it's all happening, probably a lot of reasons. But what are your thoughts about the ACGME saying, that has to be part of a residency program?
It's interesting because it's kind of twofold in a way, where the system really needs to figure it out. I mean, we can't really just say, hey, it's going to be your problem to solve,
right.
because
right.
because it's the system that is the problem that creates this burnout, and that's already been researched multiple times. And so, but it is important for the resident physician to have a well-being plan, because without it, if your health goes under, then everything else is you're not going to become a great resident physician after that. You're not going to be able to learn as well as you could. You're not going to reach your potential. So it is important to have your own well-being plan. And so that's what I am actually working on, trying to maintain a consistent schedule, instead of just, because right now I can do whatever I want to meditate whenever I want to. So now I'm trying to wake up at an early time, really be on the right schedule and get everything I need done for my self-care in the day, because I know it's going to be a little bit tight schedule when I get to residency.
Nice. That's so brilliant. Yeah, I love it. I think your perspective is so interesting because you've already been through it. Most residents are new to it and they're nervous, just like you're saying you are as well. They're nervous because they're uncertain. But I think, it's very key, like you said, to, have those foundational practices before you get there, make them part of just, they're non-negotiable. There's certain things just can't be negotiable. Maybe the time of the day you do that might switch depending on your, the month, your rotation. But yeah, I think if anything, the message has to be, our neurophysiologic needs, we can't have magical thinking about them. We need to kind of, like you said, parasympathetic release. We need to get those emotions, give them room to flow, teach people some tools, and acknowledge that networking and building that support team around you is really so important. I thought when I was in residency, you just get your work done, put your head down, get your work done, go. And then, it hits you over the years, like, oh my gosh, it's the relationships. That's really everything. And so that's so neat. Yeah. So thank you for being an amazing model of these foundational wellness practices. I appreciate it. And a lifelong learner. Any parting words for our audience today?
Yeah, it's just in terms of the well-being piece, not every modality is going to work for every person. And so it takes a few tries. It took me several years to figure it out for myself, and I'm continuing to learn. And so just try it. There's a lot of different mind-body therapies like acupressure, tapping, meditation, hypnosis, aromatherapy, you name it. It's just trying to find really what works for you, but staying aligned with who you are. Maintaining your health is the most important thing, the first important thing while you're in residency, for sure.
I love it. Yeah, no, that's so true. Is that it's your journey. Where in medicine, when you're learning something, you try to be the best or you not have any errors because you're dealing with someone's life. But professional well-being, you can try new things and adjust and iterate. That's fine. In that space, you have time to try things. And I agree. Yeah, I agree. That's a great lesson for our audience. Thank you for your time and all the best to you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. All right. Stay well.